Good evening, everybody. The band is back together, and boy, it feels good. Chris Lee hosting here, joined by Blake Lovell and Max Barr, all of Southeastern 16. I have literally, within the last 15 minutes, just pulled back in to Nashville from SEC Basketball Media Day, where, boy, was there interest. And I got excited. These guys texted me, said, hey, we're doing a live stream tonight. Can you guys make it home? Like, I wanted to stay down there. Hear a few more coaches, but, like, the pull of Blake Lovell's Siren Song to do a live stream with you guys tonight, and basketball was just too strong. Had to get in the car, come home. Here we are, guys. Basketball season is in the air. I can feel it. Like there's a chill outside. I threw on the sweats. Guys, I mean, we love our sports, right? But Blake and I found this is our first thing was covering basketball wall to wall. And it's always fun to go back to that, Blake. And I just got so excited being down there and thinking about the basketball season ahead.
Yeah, usually, by the way, if you're already leaving snide comments in the chat, we got an hour plus, folks. We're going to be getting to your snide comments, Mr. Kyle R. But, yes, it is basketball season. And I know there's a lot of fans in here of football teams that are not doing well right now, because you want hope. You want something to look forward to. And so we're going to do our best to give you as much as we can on these basketball teams heading into the season. But, yes, this is a basketball channel, as you know. I know thousands of you seem to care about football, but this is a basketball channel here at Southeastern 16. And, it's exciting to be talking about it again. Yeah, usually I'm at Media Day every year. Couldn't go this year, but certainly watched everything. And, yeah, as always, there's some interesting things you hear. And I don't know that it told us a whole lot about a whole lot. But, hey, there's basketball being talked about. It's mid-October. The season is near. And tell you what else. Mother Carol is back.
Mother Carol.
Southeastern 16.
Boom.
A member of the It Just Means More tier, $3.99. So is Sam Smith, which, as always, I mean, we kind of have to pick and choose what we can put on the screen of Sam's comments, but that's okay. And no, Sam, my Wi-Fi is not out, and who the hell is Mark Byington? That will be a meme for many years to come from Sam. So there you go.
Max Barr. When's the last time I did a show with Max Barr?
Years.
It seems like years.
When you texted us, I'm going to make it back, I got so excited. I was like, oh, the gang's all back together.
You shaved for us, man. You're doing the Spencer Strider look tonight.
Well, I'm doing a little bit of a Grant Nelson. I don't know if it's here to stay. We're going to see how it goes, but we're feeling good right now. I was texting Blake earlier. I was like, it feels like March. I haven't had basketball plastered all over my social media in months. I feel like I'm back at home. This feels amazing.
Boys, this is going to feel so good this year. The atmosphere down there, Blake, you would not have believed it. I mean, you used to be you and Drew DeArmond at Media Day.
It used to be me and Drew DeArmond and about 10 other people, and that used to be everybody at SEC
probably got whatever you wanted. It was Bob Holt.
Bridgestone Arena, I want to say 2017 maybe, so that's about 7 years ago. They were not doing this this was not a hotel type event. This was a gather in the concourse of Bridgestone Arena, and it's me, Bob Holt, Avery Johnson, Mark Fox, Bruce Pearl, Mike White, like all these guys. Just we're just all sitting around at a table, literally sitting at a table, talking to these guys like a round table, like we're eating dinner. There were no chicken wings passed around or anything. And that used to be SEC Basketball Media Day. But now, look at what it's become. It's not SEC Football Media Day, but it's a big deal because it's the best conference in the country. And people are talking basketball. They should be talking basketball. You got multiple Final Four contenders, multiple national championship contenders potentially. And then, you know what else you got? You got Jackson, who just became a member of the It Just Means More tier here at Southeastern 16. And you've also got Kyle R., who we brought up earlier, who says, Blake, I know Mizzou went 0-19 last year. But but I'm back being optimistic about my Tigers this year. I was just messing with you. I know you're being optimistic, Kyle. Are they being underrated coming into the season? We're going to save that discussion here, Max. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But
I like that.
Yeah, so there you have it.
Well, Chris, you were there. You were in the flesh, and there were some pretty cool scenes. There were some pretty cool scenes. Tell me about it.
Well, I'm not a prolific tweeter, as you guys know, but I did tweet out several things, several photos from down there, did some videos and stuff like that. Did you see? I sent you guys the picture separately, but I don't know if you can pull up the tweet. I was sitting right next to the mob that formed to talk to Alabama players. They have breakout sessions. I have a couple of players, and they have these side tables in there. By the way, the setup's really cool, too. I tweeted out a picture of that. Like, that was really well done. But, I mean, I think that's Latrell Wrightsell allegedly behind this mob that they're talking to. Like, the mob of Alabama media now, man, Auburn was represented pretty well, too. I mean, Blake and I remember times where, like, I think Alabama's always cared some, right? Because they've always been pretty good. Like, Alabama basketball's never been bad for a while. They're not Alabama football, which I think Alabama fans think if they're not Alabama football, they're no good sometimes. But they've always been good. Auburn, like, I never would have dreamed Auburn, like, would care two flips about basketball. And they had a lot of course, it was in Birmingham. I get it. But the media crowd there was the biggest I've ever seen. And the overwhelming presence of, like, it used to be Kentucky's show and everybody else was just kind of along for the ride. And, like, it felt like it was Alabama and Auburn's show today.
Yeah. Wow. Again, it was not that way for the longest time it was Kentucky. It was Kentucky, Bob Holt, and everybody else. Like, that's the way it used to be. Like, with the now listen, this is not true. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can't see what's on the screen right now. Sam Smith, there's no truth to the rumor that I cannot go to SEC Media Day due to Dennis Gates filing a restraining order. That is not factually accurate. So it is not true at all. Still my client. The 0-19 season, we're treating it like Will Smith and Men in Black. We're just taking the thing. We're pushing the button. Didn't happen. Back for a vengeance this year. So we'll get into that.
The comments are just on fire tonight.
The problem is we're going to have some new people. Like, we're going to have new people where you have someone like Burke who comes in saying, what did you do? Like, they think that, I have done something to my guy, Dennis Gates. But maybe I did. Maybe I put a curse on him from last year. But no, it's not true. So, anyways.
They'll learn.
All right. Let's talk about some stuff. Look, they came out with a preseason rankings. The awards are out. Max, we can put those on the screen, I think.
I can do my best.
I have it on my Twitter if we want to pull it up on there. I put those up yesterday. We can probably pull this up.
Let's see if this works. It might pull up my whole browser. All right. I don't know if that can work.
All right. That's fine for now. So, okay, here was the predicted order of finish for anyone who didn't see it for SEC basketball this year. Picked by the media, as always. Alabama 1, Auburn 2, Tennessee 3, Arkansas 4, A&M 5. Calm down, Max. We'll talk about the Aggies in a second. Florida at 6, Texas at 7, Kentucky at 8, Ole Miss at 9, Mississippi State 10, South Carolina and Father Lamont Paris at 11, Georgia at 12, Missouri 13, LSU 14, Oklahoma 15, and the Vanderbilt Commodores at 16. My question to everyone out there, and bias is welcome in the comments, which team is the most underrated team in the 1 through 16 predicted order of finish? Max, I will let you begin. I think I know where you're going, but there are other options as well you can pick from here.
I don't think you do know where I'm going.
Well,
I don't think you do.
A&M, again, you're a big A&M guy this year, number 5. I could see you moving them up. But if there's a team that's further down and they can move up many more spots, then you could pick them as your most underrated team. So,
I'll be honest. I have fallen into the trap of overreactions here. And I'm buying what Porter Moser is putting down with the Oklahoma Sooners.
I did not see you going there.
I knew you didn't. Listen, Oklahoma, I think almost everyone who's done a SEC media ballot has Oklahoma in that bottom little 3 or 4. But when we went through the numbers, we saw, even though the talent might not be SEC level, their shooting numbers are fantastic. They have some fantastic 3-point numbers. And we were always like, well, we don't know how that's going to fit. Well, Porter Moser came out today and was like, we're a much better shooting team than I thought we were, and we're going to shoot it a lot more often than I thought we were going to. And it might just be a bunch of nothing, but for a team at 15th with a guy at the 4 and matchup nightmare like Jalen Moore, they've got some older guys. I don't know. They might be able to space the floor, and Oklahoma might be a little bit better than we thought they were going to be. I think at 15, I think they could jump up pretty high. I'll go Oklahoma most underrated.
Max, they're guys on the roster now. Shot a combined 41% from 3 last year, and I'm pretty sure that's the top number.
They got great numbers. I don't know if it'll translate. A lot of it's from lower levels, but the numbers say that they're going to be a pretty good shooting team.
And they hit, how many did they hit? 280. I guess that's an okay number. It's not a lot, but it's not a little.
Yeah, we'll see.
Chris?
Had, let's say they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys hit at least 25. So they spread it out a bit. It's cheating because it can't possibly be anything but wrong. I mean, anything but right or even, but Vanderbilt. I mean, I just that team has got, and I've said this before, the team that last year there was a team that was picked last, and that team had more minutes compiled at the D1 level by its roster than anybody in the SEC. That team of South Carolina wound up finishing, 4th, 5th, made the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying Vanderbilt's going to go to the NCAA tournament, but that team this year that was picked last and also had more minutes on the roster that played at D1 level last year, that's Vandy. More experience than anybody.
My concern, and Max knows, I called them my sleeper team.
They're small.
3 months ago.
You were very big on them in the summer.
And I just don't know about the depth. And I think that's what worries me a little bit compared to a lot of the other teams. And I think I want to see it first. But they got a stud at point guard. And when you have a stud at point guard, you always got a shot. I mean, A.J. Hogarth's there now. And like you mentioned, they got experience. And I think they've got some shooting. So I can see it. I think, I don't see this as a... Oh, I'm going to give you my pick in a second. But I don't see this as a year...
He's going to rag our picks first before he gives us one.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I don't see this as a year where you're going to have one of those teams that's like 15-16 being like 3 and something. I feel like you're going to spread. Like, I don't know if there's a team like that this year. And as good as the teams at the top are, I still think you're going to have some of these games where, these teams are going to beat up on each other, and you're going to have 14 beating 3. You're going to have 15 beating 4 or something. Like, I think that can happen. So, I don't know. All right, my pick. Which fan base has paid me the most for this selection?
Missouri.
I mean, everyone knows my biased choice is going to be Missouri. But there's another team that I'm going to pick instead. My official pick is going to be what I was texting you guys earlier. And that is trust the process when it comes to Chris Jans. Trust the process, all right? Because Mississippi State is picked at 10th, all right? Now, I don't know that I'm going to pick them to finish in the top 4 or anything, so maybe this isn't the best choice in terms of doing the math and saying which team can jump the highest amount of spots. But I told you guys, this guy has won at least 21 games. Yeah, I got to pull it up again. I gave you guys the numbers earlier. But it's just ridiculous, like, when you look at the numbers. And even though they've gone 8-10 in the SEC in back-to-back years, they've made the tournament in back-to-back years. So he's won at least 21 games every year as a head coach, going back to 2015. And the one year he didn't was 2021, where they only played 20 games, because I'm assuming that was kind of the hangover from the COVID season, right? That was 20 into 21. So you had some of those teams that year. A&M, didn't they play like 20-something games or something too? So like I throw that season out. But remember, the year they didn't make the tournament at New Mexico State, where the tournament got canceled, 25-6. They were 16-0 in the conference that year. So they didn't even get a chance where they could have won multiple games. But my point is, if you look at it, this guy has they just find ways to win games. Now, the difference is what Chris has already beaten me up over in the comments, right? Or is everybody talking about Grant Nelson over here?
Yeah.
Okay. Max Barr, also known as Grant Nelson. Trust the process for Chris Jans. They're not going to be as good of a defensive team this year. They are not probably going to be, if you look at the numbers, I think it's going to be one of those Ken Palm years where you're going to see things just flip a lot for Mississippi State. But they got Josh Hubbard. They got Riley Kugel there now. And as I told you guys in the comments, all you got to do is outscore your opponent by a single point. Throw defense out the window. All you got to do is outscore the other team. I think Mississippi State has got the guards. We always say how great their front court was, right? And it was. It really good front court. But the fact is, when you talk about this league, you're going to win from the top in terms of the guys who are bringing up the floor, your guard play, and all that. And I think their guard play this year is going to be really, really good. So, plus they got Cam Matthews, captain of the bully ball team. So, I'm going to take a shot on Mississippi State here as my official pick. But again, if you're coming from Mizzou, you come through me first. So.
Well, you mentioned the top there, Blake, and there's one team atop the rankings, and that's Alabama. Chris, you actually said that you were pretty close to Nate Oates there in the waiting area or something for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, Nate Oates and I were sitting there both waiting for our cars to come up, and I'm like, what do you want to bet Nate Oates gets his car before I get mine? And that happened. He did.
Well, he also gave some a lot of injury updates and some return dates, some important stuff. I'll just throw them out there real quick. Obviously, Youngblood, we've known this, out until sometime in December. Wrightsell and Aiden Sherrill, both out against Wake Forest in a few days, here on Friday, I believe. Sherrill hopefully back by game 1. Wrightsell should be back by the second exhibition against Memphis. Few injuries, a little banged up there are the Tide, but I'm not worried.
All right.
Yeah, they also said, let's see, he called Omonuri the best shot blocker in the country today, which they definitely lacked one of those last year.
I think that's where, like with Alabama, the defensive numbers from last year, and I know we had those battles about me saying they're just going to go outscore people, and at times it looked good, at times it didn't. But I think the defensive numbers are going to be, they should be a lot better once they get our guy Chris Youngblood back in the mix too, which we assume Max January maybe is what it's looking like, but we'll see.
By the way, I botched the pronunciation there, didn't I?
I don't know. What'd you say?
I don't
call
know.
him Big Cliff.
Call him Big Cliff and call
Big
it a
Cliff
day.
from Rutgers.
I'll tell you what.
6'11", 240.
I'll tell you what. One quote, and I really did not find many quotes today because a lot of them is just, coach speak and whatever. But Oates said, I loved his quote on hiring his defensive coordinator, Brian Adams. He said when he was about if you can't coach a top 5 defense in the country, don't even bother applying. Oh, I love that. Gets me fired up.
He was very businesslike today.
Really?
Very. Which is
good.
Probably nothing new, but
this is a business. Good. Go win games. All right. How about we pull up the awards real quick?
Yes.
By the way, if you're in the comments, if you guys want to leave a super chat, be sure to do that because I know we have a lot of comments coming in. There's 200 plus of you in here watching this right now. So give us a nice super chat. I think you can spend a penny of your money to give us a super chat. That way we'll get to your comment for sure. And if you want to join that, it just means more tier, as we said. Check that out as well. And I know we forgot to talk about our friends at BetOnline, Max, so let me do that real quick. Because if you want to bet on any of these SEC teams this year, if you want to take our advice and go all in on Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and Mississippi State, you can do it at BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for sports betting. Every stat, matchup breakdown, live odds, and spreads to bet on during games, including Janai Broom over-under three-pointers that you will see Max Barr jumping up and down like an absolute maniac about. Plus, they have the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB, NHL, NBA, to even political props when the game's over. Head on over to the online casino, play some blackjack or poker, plus over 150 slots games. Head to their website today, get on the action. America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet online. The game starts here.
Comments are on fire tonight.
Yeah, they should be.
They haven't skipped a beat.
They've been waiting months for this. So, anyways, quick shout out to Coach Williams checking in. Guys, fact. Give me a stat for you, okay? Not only did he coach me in high school in basketball, but we also coached together when I got into the coaching front afterwards. And we coached some great teams, and we coached some great teams. That's all I'll say. So,
I need to know, was Blake a ball hog? I think we need to.
Absolutely not. I was the 3-point specialist.
3 and D.
So 3 and free throws. I was great at both. You got to be efficient. I didn't play defense, but again, who cares, right? You just got to score more. All right, awards. First team All-SEC, if you guys missed it. Mark Sears, Janai Broom, Walter Clayton, Zakai Ziegler, Wade Taylor. Second team All-SEC, Grant Nelson, Jonas Adu, John L. Davis, Matthew Morrell, Josh Hubbard. Third team All-SEC, Chad Baker Mazzara, Alex Condon, Jackson Robinson, Colin Murray Boyles, and Tremont Mark. Max, I know you saw the tweet from our guy Garth Glitzman. They decided to make it 5 this year. We went in on the 5-man teams. They made the change. Bravo. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, much needed, and I don't know why it took so long, but I'm just no complaints anymore. I'm happy we finally have it. Are you kidding me with Colin Murray Boyles on the third team? Are you kidding me?
What a league.
But that's what happens when you move to 5. Like, somebody's got to get pushed down, man. So
yeah, I know. With the original 17 team, he would have been on the first and a half. Any big snubs, any major snubs that just jump off the page at you, or would you have to kind of look at stats and stuff and be like, oh man, he could have been on there? Any major snub?
You can't go wrong with that first team, right? Like, I don't know how I couldn't replace any of those 5 guys. Do any of you guys disagree? Like, I just think there's no way if you're doing a 5-man first team that you can leave off any of those 5 guys right there.
I think the only thing, because for some reason people do not like Wade Taylor. I don't know why, but I think he's got to be on there. Yeah. Like, again, like, you could make cases for all the second team guys, but like, I don't know how you're moving them ahead of the first 5 on there, because I just think that's probably, in my opinion, about as clear cut. If I had to pick a preseason first team All-SEC, 5 guys, I don't remember the last time probably it's been, to me, this simple, because I just think those 5 guys have set themselves apart to where, as good as the second team is, as good as the third team is, I'm just saying, there's no way I can move any of those first 5 off of there. So, you know what I'm noticing now, just kind of looking at it as a whole, there's really not many bigs. I mean, Broom is the only guy over like 6'3" on the first team. Grant Nelson's a 4. Then you have Adu, 3 guards. Then you have Condon, guards. Murray Boyles is like 6'7". I mean, there's really not much height on any of these teams at all.
Surprised no Elijah Martin, maybe third team.
Yeah, that's one that comes to mind.
I thought he would be on there, but that's the first name I thought of. But
somebody dropped Lamar Butler. Lamar Butler. Good grief, I can't speak. Been a long day. Lamont Butler, that guy in the comments. And another one, Tony Perkins, maybe.
I would have said Mark Mitchell probably ahead of Perkins.
Okay.
I mean, look, I'm saying that, like, if I would have guessed the prediction, I would have guessed that Mark Mitchell would have got more votes than Perkins. Not to say that I think Perkins is going to be very, very important to that team, as we'll talk about with Missouri. But I just think, to me, Martin was one. And I think the problem you're going to run into with Kentucky is...
Cam Matthews, that's another one.
Yeah, Matthews is another one. Kentucky, to me, they have so many guys that I think are going to contribute. And I feel like it's... Oh, look. We got the thumbs up. Look at that.
There we go.
Oh. Got the thumbs up on the screen. I just, that's where, like, do you put Butler on there? Do you put our guy Andrew Carr? Do you put, like, we've talked about it, Max. I just feel like Kentucky's scoring is going to be Robinson should be the leading scorer, and that's why he's probably on the third team All-SEC, but I just feel like Kentucky's going to be very spread out in terms of their scoring production.
I'm nitpicking here, but let me ask you, would you rather have Big Cliff as your center or Alex Condon as your center? Nothing away from Condon. I think he's going to have a great sophomore breakout, and Florida's expecting a lot from him. We'll probably get on that. Golden was talking a lot about Condon today. But Big Cliff is like, come on.
I mean, average double-double, right?
He's not on any team.
Yeah. I think I'm interested, though, to see Condon on that third team All-SEC, because that does tell me something. Like,
it does.
He got enough votes that he's on there.
Yep.
And so I think it's, again, that's where, like you said, Todd Golden's been talking him up. But I'm intrigued because we saw, what he could do last year. Now we know with Han Logden injured, I mean, he's going to get opportunities. Tyree Samuel's not there. So, I'm intrigued by that one, I will say. Yeah.
Nice.
What about Kirk? I know this is probably further down the list, but what about Kirk Risa?
I think it's the same problem. I think it's just
okay.
I feel like the scoring is going to be. I mean, like I feel like Butler's his problem. Like I feel like you've got him and you've got Kobe Bryant. You've got it's like which one do you pick? And so, I don't know. But
also, there's probably going to be a freshman somewhere.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
There was no freshman on that list.
Yeah.
So,
hey. Lamont Paris said today, I'll give you the quote.
Yeah.
What did he say? Let me find it. I got it in my notes here.
About Cam Scott?
He's been saying the quote, if Cam doesn't make the all-freshman team, I'm going to work for free. So, follow Lamont Paris, a giving man, saying that he will work for free if Cam doesn't make the all-freshman team.
So how do we want to go about this? You want to just kind of go team by team or bounce around?
Let's just see what the people want to talk about, Max. Let's see where people want to take this. I'm going to get to a couple things a second ago, but before we do that, Chris, tell everybody about Future Fans.
Future Fans is, man, I love this partnership. I've got a 10-year-old boy, and I'm one of those lucky ones that, like, he just, when he was 2, if I was watching something, he'd watch it. And so he absorbed a lot of the things that I absorbed and just dove headlong into sports fandom. But I'll tell you what, if I had Future Fans around at the time, it would have helped a ton. It would have helped explain things to him in a way that he could have probably understood better than I could explain to him at the time. Certainly with my daughter, that would be the case. And what Future Fans is, it is a box set. I usually have it propped up behind me. I don't at the moment. But it's got games, books, little things like that. It is priced at $49.99, and it's a bargain. And by the way, you can get 10% off that with the promo code SEC when you go to futurefans.com. But if you want to teach your kids about football, they're actually coming up with different games for other sports. I think they got one for soccer. I think they'll have them for all the major games probably by the time they're done. But I've talked to people who have given their kids, the kid or the grandkids, and the stories of how it brought families together are just crazy. Go to futurefans.com. See what people are raving about. Use the promo code SEC. Get 10% off your purchase. Help out those who help us. Just a fantastic product. I cannot recommend it enough. Great Christmas gift, birthday gift, whatever. Get it and thank us later.
If you're drafting a football team, your first pick in SEC basketball, Cam Matthews, right?
He's up there.
He's up there. I think Josh Gray might get a shout.
Well, no, no. I'll tell you
Josh
what,
Gray,
it's Broom or it's or Sears. We had that battle last year.
Football?
Oh, football. Well, they could play football too. I'm reading the comments.
Listen, I want to know Mark Sears' football background. If there's any Alabama fans,
Mark Sears could be an option quarterback. He could make.
He could be.
Broom could be your pass rushing defensive end. Just stick the hands up, swat the ball down.
Give me a defense that has two guys on all I need is two guys on my defensive line, Cam Matthews and Josh Gray, and you're not scoring on us ever. So, all right, look at Big Baller Brett weighing in. You think Big Baller Brett's ever said a negative word about Mark Sears?
No.
Ever?
Never.
Come on.
Never.
Big Baller Brett's pushing Mark Sears for the NFL draft here. So this is a great point. Chris wasn't even fazed by us talking about Josh Gray as the first pick for our basketball team. So there you go. Hey, this is what we keep saying. Like,
you guys,
big impact coming for a certain squad this year. All right. So keep that in mind. All right. You know what? Listen, Flying Blind, an all-time commenter here. One of the best ever.
Nice.
All the Hog fans are going to be here, but the thing is, Arkansas fans are excited about football too right now. Last year was a little bit different when we were doing this time of year. But he's right. I mean, when you talk about, you got Arkansas and Kentucky, I mean, what an interesting offseason it's been. We've talked about it here on the channel, but I mean, I think we're almost here now, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out for all parties involved, right? I mean, Chris, you were, talking about Mark Pope today, and just kind of the energy that he brings and how it's going to be so much different, I think, from the ending of the Cal era there, and now Cal's and Fayetteville, and it's really interesting because Max and I have talked about it. It's just interesting how the two teams have been built this year, knowing that they're new teams, basically. I mean, Brazil coming back was, one of those big returns for Arkansas. But when you just look at these two teams, Arkansas, Max, people buying into, I'm not saying hype is a demeaning term here, but like people are buying into Arkansas. They get picked fourth. They get picked ahead at A&M. Kentucky, I think there are some people that are sort of wait and see on them to see how everything plays out. But, man, it's wild to think how much has changed, and both have very, very high expectations heading into the season. So,
yeah, I believe he asked about how they might look in the exhibition against Kansas, and my honest answer is probably rough. It's probably going to look pretty rough, which is a good thing. Expose some holes and everything, but it's going to be rough because of some injuries. I don't think Aduthiero is going to be ready yet, and I believe. It's not confirmed, but when Cal said the quote, "I like my roster, we're a little beat up right now, but I like the roster," when he was saying we're a little beat up right now, I think he's also talking about John L. Davis and Jonas Adu. So just in that Kansas exhibition that you're wondering about, it's probably going to be a little bit rough, but that's probably a good thing. Get Carter Knox in there and some of the younger guys. I don't think it's going to be that too big of an issue long term.
Arkansas is interesting because I feel like this is the got something to prove team in a lot of ways. The last year was disappointing, as everybody knows. We know how it ended for Cal at Kentucky. And you look at some of the players, Jonas Adu was so good all year. And then just the NCAA tournament, it didn't go as well. DJ Wagner was, Blake, am I remembering, or was he like the number one recruit in the country, like when he was a sophomore or a junior? Fell a little bit, didn't have maybe the kind of season he wanted last year.
A lot of that was injuries too last year, though, I think.
Yeah.
I think, he had that nagging, was it ankle? I don't remember injuries.
It was either ankle or wrist. It was ankle or wrist. Yeah.
And speaking of that, you had Trayvon Brazile. You had Big Z. It just kind of came and went at times with him. Nothing ever really stuck. There's a lot of kids on the team.
Big Z was sick also. Big Z was sick.
Yeah, and a coach that I think would like to show a better side than what we saw at the end of last season in some of those cases.
Yeah, are you guys surprised by the separation of Arkansas and Kentucky in the media poll?
I don't think so.
Not really.
I think Kentucky to me is. I just feel like it's a mystery to some people how this is going to go in year one because if you do right, if you just compare rosters, like I think it's one where you're going to look at Arkansas and you look at again like there's a bunch of home run hitters there when you just right when you look at just the way this roster's been built. Like we said, if DJ Wagner's at full strength, John L. Davis, I mean. Take one of those guys off the first team All SEC, I may put him there, as the replacement of one of those top five guys because I think he's going to be that good. And so we talked about that. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that months ago, right, Max? I mean, we were like pretty much all in on him. Adu, like Chris said, I mean, I know Tennessee fans and we talked about the stuff. We're struggling against sort of the better big men, but that guy's still pretty rock solid. I mean,
massive.
and you just look at the size and the front court and all that. And then to me, though, Kentucky's just a different team because that Arkansas team, I look at them and I wonder, okay, where's that three-point shooting going to come from? I look at Kentucky and I'm like, who can't shoot the three?
Yeah.
Everybody. And so I think they're going to be stylistically very different. And I feel like that is something where, to me, that's why, Max, when we talk about Kentucky, I think they've got a ton of upside, of course, being picked there. And I feel like for Mark Pope, that's perfect. You want to be picked there. You don't want to be picked second or third because then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, pressure's on, which it is right away. Like, it's Kentucky. There's always going to be pressure, no matter who the coach is, no matter what season they're in. But the fact is, with that three-point shooting for Kentucky, we've said it. They should be the best three-point shooting team in the country. If that's the case, that is going to allow them to, finish higher than 8th. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happens.
You know what's interesting about them is, like you said, they got guys coming out their ears who can shoot the three and shoot it efficiently. You remember how efficient his teams were at BYU. You can build an offense that's fun to watch. A lot of places you can really build it at Kentucky. I mean, I had some buddy of mine that knows basketball pretty well text me today saying, I think Mark Pope is going to be a complete bust. I'm like, man, I don't know. This is a guy that's been a pretty good. I mean, this guy that how many guys by the way, won a national title, I guess, played in the NBA. The guy was in medical school at Columbia, I think it was, and dropped out because he decided to want to coach basketball. I mean, those are some serious skill sets there, and he's already demonstrated. I know it's not at the level that Kentucky won at, right? I get it. I'm not telling you that just because he did it at BYU, it's going to be the world's greatest thing at Kentucky. But there's a lot of stuff there I like, guys.
Oh, Chris, I'm right there with you, and it's literally a sliver. But I kind of like Kentucky a little bit more than Arkansas heading into the year. Don't get me wrong. I really like Arkansas, and you're probably not going to find a bigger fan of Carter Knox than me right now. The bully ball committee has got our watch list. We are scouting Carter Knox, hearing the physicality that's coming out of practice with him on the bully ball team. But Kentucky, I mean, if you have Lamont Butler, and then it's either Krisa or Kobe Brea, Jackson Robinson, Andrew Carr, Amari Williams, that's graduate, senior, graduate. I mean, they're going to be so experienced. They're going to be one of the best shooting teams in the nation. They're going to be playing that Pope offense. They've got one of the best guard defenders in the country with a 3-time conference defensive player of the year at center. I mean, I don't know how it doesn't work. I mean, if it doesn't work, I think it happens in the backcourt. Maybe there's not the right, the true point guard. And it's a little bit, I don't know, just the offense can't really get going the way we thought the Mark Pope offense would be humming. But I mean, geez, I'm nitpicking here. I really like this Kentucky team. I think the shooting's there for sure. And I think Lamont Butler is one of the best guard defenders in the nation.
Burke, here's why I said Kentucky being the top 3-point shooting team. Keep in mind, they were the top 3-point shooting team last year. Max, you did the stats this summer. What was it like? You have to bring up the stat again we were talking about with them.
Yeah, I can go back through my Twitter and find it. But I did, you got it?
You need it.
Yes.
Yeah. This collection of guys hit 424 3-pointers last year at a 40% clip.
Nuts.
It's
nuts.
And what I did is I took total 3-pointers made, but then I also took just team percentage. So it's like I didn't want to just have a team that just chucks up shots but they're not even shooting them. So then I did a composite ranking, like the ranking of the total 3-pointers with the ranking of the team percentage, and I put those into a composite. Kentucky far and away number 1 in the conference, like not even a competition.
Yeah. I mean, I think Alabama will be the best offensive team in the country is my prediction. But I think shooting-wise, I could see Kentucky percentage beating them out.
I'm just talking about threes. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that's kind of the argument for Kentucky and why they can definitely take a big step forward. So, yeah, and as Mother Carol says, too, keep in mind, Kentucky's got, I think, the freshman, too. So, Perry, right? I mean, Perry
Chandler. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I think Kentucky has a lot of upside, and again, I think that's where you want to be if you're Kentucky. When's the last time Kentucky came into the season and they didn't have the highest expectations of anybody? So
it's not a bad spot to be.
No, not at all. So, all right. What else we got? I'm going to jump into some of your questions. And people had some questions. We're going to run through some of these, and we'll just bounce back and forth. Look, we're probably not going to get to all 16 teams, guys, but it's October 15th. We're going to be doing these movies. We're going to talk a lot about it.
Just happy to be back.
We're just happy to be back. All right. Here's an interesting one. Bubble Wrap wants to know, which I know Bubble Wrap, I think your first question was whether we had talked about Mississippi State yet. And then you're going to ask if Ole Miss is overrated. I'm curious if there's something at play here. But we did talk about Mississippi State earlier, by the way. We'll talk more than probably. We're going to do some word association in a minute. We'll have some fun with that. Is Ole Miss overrated? They're ranked number 24. Max, you made a good point about Ole Miss. I did not expect them to be ranked going into the season. But the fact is, I think they have a good chance to stay there because I think their non-conference schedule will allow them to rack up a lot of wins, which they did the same thing last year, right? Didn't work out once they got to the SEC, but I think this team is better, and I'm not surprised that Ole Miss is as high as they are because I think this team is better than the one they had last year.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think that the non-conference sets up pretty well. They only play one team in the top 40 of Ken Palm's preseason. So, and that's BYU on a neutral floor. They had their other tough games, Louisville and maybe Memphis. But other than that, it's like just a wash. So rankings wise, no, I don't think they're overrated. I think they're going to be a top 25 team heading into January. But you can kind of Ole Miss for me. I wrote it on. I was actually having a conversation with a Mississippi State fan actually on Twitter. It was funny. But the thing about Ole Miss is they're kind of my up in the air team heading into next year. You know, how is Malik Dia and Mikhail Brown-Jones going to work in the front court? Is John Bull going to be a factor this year? I haven't heard much about him. Chris Beard was the last one up on media day, so I didn't catch anything. But just a lot of questions with how that 5 spot's going to shake out. But I love the backcourt, and Dre Davis is one of the most underrated gets of the offseason.
Blake, what wins games in March?
Outscoring the other opponent by a point.
Well, of course you're going to say that, but you're
Knew
close.
That was coming.
I mean, guard experience. Does anybody have like 3 or 4 guards that have played more than Murray, Morrell, Padula? I mean, and you know, I mean, they got a lot of guys that played a lot of ball a long time.
Yeah.
Not to mention Chris Beard can coach a little bit. So,
and he got his defensive coordinator back from Texas Tech, Mark Adams.
Yep.
So, I think to answer the question, I don't think they're that overrated. Blake?
No, I think they're about where they should be. To me, like I said, I think Mississippi State and Ole Miss are 2 teams that I feel like if you're taking your sort of shot in the dark pick on, let's say, a team that's ranked in the bottom half that can win the league. I don't know if they win the league, but if we're saying like maybe finish in the top 3 or 4, those I could give you an argument for both of those teams.
Yep.
I think for some people, Mississippi State may be tougher to convince you of because the front court, there's more questions than we're used to, and they may flip kind of their identity this year from what we've used to seeing with Chris Jans' teams there. But I think Ole Miss they got a lot of pieces. Like I really, I'm high on them too. That's the problem, right? Like that's, like we said, you look at the rankings. If you take the top, however many, look, most bracketologies have 10 SEC teams getting in, okay? Mississippi State was picked 10th in the SEC preseason poll. That means they're an NCAA tournament team if you just go by what projections are, right? Mm-hmm. Of 16 teams, the number 10 team is still an NCAA tournament team. And so that to me means that number 11, number 12, number 13 probably, they're at least in the conversation for a while, you know? And so that's, again, I keep saying it. Like that's where, look, I know South Carolina fans are going to be saying, hey, what about us again, right? Like, we doing this again? We're picking Father Lamont Paris at number 11. Last year we picked him at 14. The people wanted to pick him 16th last year, but there weren't 16 teams in the league yet. So now they're picked 11th after surprising the world. They got Colin Murray Boyles. They got a stud freshman. They got some other dudes in terms of they feel like guys who are dudes. They're going to be able to replace, some of the production. So it's who are we to say that South Carolina can't be one of those teams? Who do we say Georgia can't be one of those teams? Mike White, great quote today. I had to grab it just because I was like, he's right. We're better. We're a good team. But there are also 15 other good teams who are getting better, right? And so that's the problem is You can be better. You can be as good as you were last year. But if you look at the teams you're going up against this year, it's just the state of the league right now. So, yeah.
I'm going to make your point for you and expand on it a little bit. Okay, here's the thing. We haven't even really talked about Georgia yet, right?
Yeah.
We hadn't mentioned Georgia is a lot of people's sleeper team, a team that can make the NCAA tournament. And I'm looking at this. It's just kind of typical of the league. They got those two kids from St. Mary's who are really good players. They had a Tyron Lawrence. They had an Abson from Appalachian State and R.J. Godfrey from Clemson. And that's kind of like almost like an average transfer class in this league, more or less. Blake, Max, you guys spent your offseason looking at this more than I did. I mean, that's just par for the course, okay? So, to me, my head is already spinning looking at all those new pieces that did stuff other places. And then comparing to other people's new guys that did stuff at other places. And, how do you put these together? And, oh, by the way, the thing that struck me while I was down there today, it is a beauty pageant of coaches, guys. I mean, nobody talks about Mike White in the midst of Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl and Cal and everybody else. But, I mean, Mike White's been to Elite Eight, right? No slouch.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's this league, man. Everybody's got a coach they like. Everybody's got a transfer class they like. Most of these teams, other than Kentucky, kept another player or two, and that's where we are.
Yeah, the thing about I know I'm just getting torn apart. The thing about Georgia, I'll say real quick.
Now, hold on. Before we talk about Georgia, we got a $1.99 super chat. One of the best super chats we've ever received. Free mustache rides from Max Barr. That's the question here. But for $1.99, the world is your oyster. So there you go. $1.99. The price is right. All right. Continue. Back to the Georgia Bulldogs here.
The comments have really been all time. They've not.
People have been holding this in for months.
But with Georgia, I hate to be pessimistic, but they got the least amount of experience in the SEC. They're a very young team. They only have 4 upperclassmen. It's 2 grads and 2 juniors. And then Blake knows. I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but I was going through the SEC schedules over the summer, and I think Georgia's got the hardest away schedule I've ever seen in my life. It's Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, A&M, Arkansas, Florida, Texas, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. That's their road schedule in conference. It is just an absolute gauntlet. I don't know how it happened, but for that to happen to the youngest team in the conference, it's just a recipe for disaster. I really like some players. They're going to be massive. They don't have a guy on the roster under 6'4", so I think they're going to be a nasty team to play. But I don't know how it's all going to shake out with those factors.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, I'm going to grab a couple ones here. By the way, Mother Carol says that she can't send a super chat for some reason, but the rest of you guys can. Send a super chat if you want. If we pick the SEC tournament champ today, she will send $30 if correct, the first live stream after the SEC tournament. So a lot at stake here. Listen, if I'm picking the SEC tournament champ today and I've got this money on the line, I'm going to go with the odds. And that, to me, is Alabama. So I'm going to pick the Crimson Tide as my selection, Mother Carol.
Rookie mistake.
I mean, Florida.
Okay.
Florida, okay. A&M by 37?
All right, write it down. You heard it here first. Conference tournament picks. We don't have a bracket. We won't have a bracket for 6 months. But we're all in on our selections here. All right. Speaking of Texas A&M, NOB, Nate Oates Burner's in here. Max, he wants to know, what am I missing on Texas A&M? Consensus seems much higher than me on them.
Well, this is my team going into this year. This is my team.
Been ready for the speech for months.
This is my team. I have poured my offseason into this team. I'm back in the Aggies this year. I've got them third in my preseason rankings. I've got them third. Well, one, most people say it's not much, but they returned the most scoring in the conference. They returned 77% of their scoring from last year, so the continuity is nice. Everyone's saying they lost Tyrese Radford. They're done. Tyrese Radford did a lot for him. I'm not going to lie, but it was basically a 2-for-1 trade. It was Tyrese Radford for C.J. Wilcher and Zurich Phelps. Zurich Phelps is going to be the highest steal rate guy Buzz Williams has ever had. It's going to be a big boost to the defense. And then C.J. Wilcher, career 40% three-point shooter from Nebraska. And then in the front court, they traded Wildens Levesque for Farrell Payne, who was one of the best offensive rebounders in the Big Ten. So guaranteed, they're going to be one of the best rebounding teams in the nation, with one of the best point guards in the nation, with a better defense. I mean, I don't know. What am I missing? They have no shooting. They're going to here's the problem. Backboard.
That's the pick I made last year too, and they just could not shoot. And if you guys remember,
they don't
into February, like, are they even getting in the tournament? And then they turned it on, got hot, played pretty well. But I don't know. It's that night in, night out shooting consistency. And I don't. And look, we love Wade Taylor. I'm not trying to throw shade at Wade Taylor, but he's not. I don't think going to suddenly jump up and be a 45% 3-point shooter.
We know Chris doesn't like Wade Taylor. Come on, folks. That's long established here.
They burned
channel.
Me last year. I picked them to win the conference. How much more love can you show someone than that?
Listen, they're not gonna shoot. They're not gonna need to shoot. They got this one thing. I'm trademarking it. It's called the Obaseki launch. Okay, it's when he gets a running start and jumps like a trampoline into whoever's guarding the basket, and it's either a layup or it's 2 free throws or it's an offensive rebounding every time. They're gonna rebound 50% of their misses. They don't need to shoot.
All right, I'm gonna give you some straight facts here. Okay, it's so funny to think about this now. The last 4 games that Texas A&M Aggies played last year, from March 15th to March 24th, 97-87, 95-90, 98-83, 100-95.
Yeah.
Now, that's a Buzz Williams coach team that played those 4 games in a row to end last season. And would we say that that's probably as good as they looked all year? Correct?
Yep.
Was that the outlier? Or
now read the scores from February.
Well, I was about to get into. I was going to tell you.
We don't.
They had a 5-game losing streak in February. They lost to Vanderbilt and Arkansas in there, who were not good teams last year. Let's call it what it is. Now, those games were close. I'll give them that. But they also lost another game to Arkansas. They lost by 15 at home to LSU. They lost against Ole Miss. They were very inconsistent last year. And that's my only thing. And I told someone this. I said, I could absolutely make the argument that I could pick Texas A&M to win the SEC this year. But I said the problem with that is if I'm looking for consistency, I look at what they bring back, and it's a lot of what they had last year. But with a year of experience, maybe I should be more optimistic. But that is the only thing, Max, that's holding me back from going all in just like you, is that this also isn't something that is a one-year thing, right? Look back the previous season. Think about how they started the year the previous season. They were 6-5. Then, of course, they wind up 25-10, go 15-3 in the SEC. So, I mean, it's just which do you trust? And I don't know. So, not sure.
Well, I'll give you one other thing. Like no team in this conference has got more guys that have played together than this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to swear all my life, but I can't imagine anybody. Wade Taylor, Anderson Garcia, Jace Carter, Solo Washington, Henry Coleman III. That's an interesting guy because he was on fire for 2 months and then just kind of disappeared. You know, if they get a rebound out of him, the team looks a little different. Obaseki, Hayden Hefner, mean, that's a lot of guys. Like in this area where you're struggling a lot of times to find a roster with guys that more than 2 or 3 guys coming back. That's what, 7 or 8 right there, and names that if you follow SEC basketball heavily.
Well, people will nag on their slow starts. I mean, if you rewind to this time last year, we had no clue if Julius Marble was going to play or not, and Tyrese Radford was injured.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now you add Farrell Payne, who's one of the best big men in the Big Ten. Jace Carter's got another year 2 in the SEC. Solomon Washington was injured last year.
Hang on, I'm not leaving, by the way. I'm not walking out on Max's filibuster here. I got to let the dog in. Hold on.
Solomon Washington, one of the best defenders in the nation at 6'7", can guard every position. I don't know.
I know what your problem is. This is the conversation where I was going to have this conversation. I didn't know if it was going to need to be me to have it with you or Blake. But when I was watching our man Chris Jan speak today, I thought we're going to have a hard conversation with Max tonight. I don't think it's as hard now. I think he's already broken up with Mississippi State, and he's on like his 3rd date with Texas A&M.
That's accurate.
Yeah. Okay. I feel a little better now because like that is not the girl that you danced with last year. They were talking about shooting the ball, and we may not be as good defensively. That's going to hurt you to your soul. But
I took Mississippi State dancing to the Final Four last year.
Yeah,
I love that.
You did that. We tried to tell you that wasn't a good idea, but
I was having a good time.
All right, so you're dancing with Texas A&M this year, Chris. Who are you dancing with this year?
Alabama or Auburn.
Oh well.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, whoa, wow. Okay.
Whoa.
Look out, everybody! Chris is dancing with Alabama and Auburn. Boy,
okay.
Wow, yikes. God. No, NATO Spreader, don't encourage this behavior. Please. I'm dancing with the top 2 teams. Great. Go, Chris. Go with Florida. You picked them to win the conference tournament.
Sure.
Pick the Gators.
I was on Florida last year. We'll just stick with the theme.
You're gonna stick with Florida?
I mean, they keep Walter Clayton. They still got Will Richard back. They got Elijah Martin. I mean, hey.
For some reason, I thought you said Chris Richard. I was like, Chris, they don't have Chris Richard back. He's out of eligibility about 15 years ago.
If I said Chris, I meant Will. But if they get Chris Richard, then I really like that pick.
Yeah, me too. Big baller Brad. I'm only upset because Chris said Alabama. Well, you may be right about that. I'd be dancing with the Tide, perhaps. But you can't dance with the Tide and the Tigers, Chris. If there's one thing I've learned over the years covering SEC basketball. You can't dance with both. That's not going to work. But yeah. Yes, exactly. We are not telling Chris that he's doing a good job here by picking the obvious choice. All right.
Blake, who are you dancing with?
Dancing with disabling this screen filter on my computer right now. Let me see here. Let me find a dance partner for this season. You can tell I'm very prepared for my choice and completely confident.
You can't go blind dating into a dance partner.
I will dance with, if Missouri didn't go 0-19 last year, I'd pick them. But I need to see a little bit more. I think they're going to win some games this year. We still got to talk about them. But you know what? I'll dance with a team that I think I've danced with for 4 straight years now. They've burned me at times. They've made it work at times. Give me the Hogs.
Oh, okay.
Give me the Razorbacks.
None of us took Tennessee. That's an upset.
We didn't.
Tennessee, I don't know. I think Tennessee is going to run into what we've seen from Tennessee in other years where they are going to be ridiculous on defense as usual.
Yep.
But I think they're going to run into a few more of those scoring droughts potentially without Dalton Connect. I'm not saying anything that anyone else hasn't already said, but I need to see what Chaz Lanier is going to look like in this offense. I need to see what everybody else is going to look like because they're going to be able to defend. They got the 2 best defending guards in the country in Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Meshack. But I need to see what the scoring output's going to look like 1 through 7 for Tennessee. So,
yeah, with Tennessee, I was looking at my quotes that I wrote down from from Barnes today, and there really wasn't anything outside of a update on Chaz Lanier that he's been dealing with an injury. And he should be back soon. He didn't give much information on it. But I thought that was worth noting because Lanier's kind of been the focal point of this offseason whenever we're talking about Tennessee. But yeah, Blake, I agree with you. I'm really excited for those Tennessee Texas A&M games where the teams combine 2 for 47 from 3. It's gonna be really fun.
I don't think you're gonna get that. I mean, I'm looking. These guys, this roster hit, what was it, 365 threes last year. That's a lot.
What was the distribution on that? You have the individual. I'm serious. I'm curious. What's the individual number?
And by the way, 37% as a team. Let's see. DeBar hit 73. Ziegler hit 72. Lanier hit 106. Igor hit 56. Gainey hit 39. And Jemai Mashak, who I interviewed a little bit today, really smart kid, hit 14.
Yeah, how was that interviewing Mashak?
He's very bright. Like, he gives well thought out answers to everything. I was very impressed. I think we posted that on Twitter, didn't we? I sent you that.
I think Barnes called him the best defender in the nation, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I think he said that unless the referee's getting in the way. I like that comment from Rick Barnes. If he isn't the best, it'll be because of the referees. He said something like that. I agree.
Yeah.
So, I think with Tennessee, I mean, you're bringing up a good point. Like, they may be underrated in terms of how they're going to shoot it, but I think Milicic is the X factor to me. I want to see how. I think you go with him or Dubar. I think I want to see what those guys are producing in SEC games. I'm not saying they can't. I'm curious to see where the rotation is by January. Because if you look at Tennessee's schedule, I mean, I'd have to pull up their tournament stuff. Like, I don't remember which tournament they're in and all that. But, they get Louisville, they get Virginia, Syracuse, Miami, Illinois. So, I mean, those
Felix Okpara kind of just not talked about, and he's going to be pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to be real good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right.
We haven't talked about Mizzou yet.
Sure, let's bring it up since Daniel's I know Daniel likes to do this on Twitter too, so let's just do it on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't. What is me to say? Like, if you watched our stuff last year, like, I wasn't saying, you know what, hey, they're winning these games. No, they were losing them. They were losing games last year. We certainly talked about that. But yes, they had a great first season. They had a terrible second season. Guess what? This is the one now. Like, now we try to figure out where are they at in terms of this. And we said it earlier, right? Max, we talked about it. Missouri's going to be better this year.
Yep.
But there are a lot of other teams that were ahead of them to where can they be good enough to get past those teams? That's the question. I think adding Mark Mitchell, Perkins, Caleb Grill's back, front court, I think you got some interesting options there. So, yeah, don't worry. The egg has been washed off the face. It's a new season. 0-19 is done for, but that's the thing. When you get that far behind, and we say it every year, all it takes is one off season, right? To where it's the transfer portal era, and we'll see if this is one where Dennis Gates can put it all together. I think they got more talent. They got more depth. They can withstand injuries better. That was a big problem last year. But the one question I still have, and Max and I have talked about it, I just don't know how they're going to be able to shoot the ball. I'm really curious about that. And if that's a problem, then I don't know. We'll find out.
When I was given my answer of Oklahoma being my surprise team at 15, Missouri at 13 was just screaming at me. Max, how did you not say me? I think 13th for Missouri is insanity. I was talking with Drew King about this the other day. Tony Perkins is going to have a height advantage on like every single SEC point guard except I think Silas Demery, maybe. I think he's got a height advantage on every other one. This guy's going to be a bully. He has an extremely high free throw rate. And if you followed our stuff last year, probably every single reaction video from a Missouri game, Dennis Gates was talking about free throws. He talked about it nonstop last year. Mark Mitchell also, fantastic free throw rate. In there, I don't know if it was yesterday or just in some some Missouri interviews I've seen lately. I've seen Caleb Grill, Jacob Cruz, Tamar Bates, and Marquise Warwick being named as the team's shooters. If those guys can shoulder that load, the four of them, and give them, I don't know, 6 to 8 threes a game combined, I think that's, maybe you get one from Tony, maybe you get one from an improved Mark Mitchell from outside. But that's my question, because physically, with Josh Gray and Peyton Marshall taking the rounds at the 5, and Tony Perkins running the point, I think this team is physically going to be way better than people think. When we start to see them on the floor for the first few weeks, from the whoa, this Missouri team's got a different look to it. But you're right on, Blake. We've been saying it all offseason. Is the shooting going to happen? We'll see.
I don't think it's dire straits for them. I mean, Cruz was a 41% shooter from deep at Tennessee Martin, for whatever that's worth. Hit a lot of them. Tamar Bates was a 38% shooter on a bad team. And Caleb Grill last year had a wrist injury, shot 29%. He was 37% the year before at Iowa State. I mean, we forgot about Caleb Grill because he got hurt so early, but we were talking him up as a big part of this team last year. And, we know what happened, but I think it may not be what Kentucky's got from beyond the arc, but they've got a few guys here.
I mean, look, they got a good the top 5 freshman class. Like he said, Boateng's one of the best freshmen he's coached. So, that's not a surprise. We knew high praise and expectations for him coming in. I think the thing we're not talking about enough is the depth. Last year, keep in mind, I know, and this will sound silly to some people, but we talked about this last year. Yes, they went 0-19, but it wasn't like Missouri was getting blown out. They weren't one of those teams where they were just getting blown out and this is clearly the worst team in the league. They were the worst team record-wise. But when you watch some of those games last year and you see how they played out, they're losing games by 6 points, 7 points, 2 points, 6 points. I'm going down the line here. 7 points, 7 points, 3 points, 5 points, 9 points, 6 points, 4 points, 5 points. That's SEC games. And again, they had injuries. They did not have the depth. I think this team is much deeper. And so if they're going to have injuries. Everybody has injuries. I think that could be the difference this year that helps them win more games. Do I think it wins them enough games to win the SEC? No. But I think this is one where they should win more games by virtue of just having a deeper roster and I think a more talented roster. But look, I'm not going to ignore what Daniel's saying here. If they go 3-something this year, if they go 4-something, whatever, then absolutely. Yes, we have to have the conversation about the program moving forward. No doubt about it. But I'm still going to lean on what I think, and I still think Dennis Gates is a very good coach. And last year was one of those just seasons that happens, and everything that could go wrong went wrong for them. And if it happens again, then absolutely. Those are discussions that have to be had. So,
hey, Blake, go ahead, Max. You first.
I was just going to say, before we move on from Missouri, Blake, I'm glad you brought up Anor Boateng. They've got 4 4-star freshmen. You're telling me one of them's not going to be good? Not 3 stars, 4 stars. They got 4 of them. Beyond, right underneath all of these older guys and all these transfers. T.O. Barrett, Nor Boateng, Marcus Allen, Trent Burns. 4 of them. Tell me one of them's not going to be good? Come on. Had to get that in there. Sorry.
And Tamar Bates didn't make. And yes, we go to that earlier. Tamar Bates did not make one of the 3 All-SEC teams, did he?
No.
Okay. I was thinking I don't think I'm crazy here on this, but do you guys remember the little heater that Tamar Bates went on for a while last year? Let me give you some scoring games in case people have forgotten. Florida, January the 20th, 36 points. 2 weeks later, he goes for 29 against Arkansas. And he had several 15 to 20 point games in there, had 25 against Central Arkansas for whatever that's worth in the pre-conference. But he went on a little run for a while where he was scoring a lot of points, and eventually the weight of the season dragged them all down. But Bates was a pretty nice player at Indiana. I think he's that might be a guy when we had our list of guys that maybe should have been on the all-conference team. He didn't come to mind immediately, but when we're going through their roster, I'm he was, before it fell apart, he was really, really good for a while.
Something else to add on the Missouri. We'll move on from Missouri, but I think they're an interesting team because we just don't see many teams go over like we did last year. We talked about this towards the end of last year. They finished, and look, I know some people don't care about KenPom, all this. You guys know I'm not the biggest analytics person there is. But if you look at it, it is so interesting to see. They finished, 145 in KenPom last year. They were 0-18. Vanderbilt finished 183. They were 4-14 in the league.
Yeah.
Okay? But just keep going back. The year before, guess how many teams finished lower than Missouri did at 0-19 last year? Georgia, 154. South Carolina, 221. Georgia won 6 games in the league 2 years ago and finished 154. LSU finished 151. So, if you're just comparing, the worst teams in, this era of the SEC, even for Missouri is actually not one of the worst teams by, even in the top 10 probably. And so I think, again, that to me, record a little bit misleading last year. I think that means they'll win more games this year. I don't know how many more it is. But certainly they need to win more. Coming off a year like that, you got to try to flip it pretty quick because you're not going to have that positive momentum anymore because year one is a long way away after you go 0-19. So,
speaking of KenPom, did you guys see the preseason KenPom projections for whatever it's worth?
Yep.
Every single team in the top, every single team in the SEC made the top 100. Vandy was 97. Everybody else was inside the top 70.
Wonder what it was last year.
That's crazy.
Wish we knew that.
Oh, yeah. I wish you could go back and look through the time.
Preseason. Yeah.
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 Curious. All right. What else we want to talk about? We're going to go a little bit longer here, if that's okay with you guys, because we're having fun with this.
We haven't really touched on Auburn all that much besides a little bit of Broom talk.
Our guy Donovan checks in.
Donovan!
Auburn fans, we know we're going to check in because, well, the football season is it's not going according to plan so far. It's a good transition, too, since we do have Missouri versus Auburn on Saturday. But Donovan wants to know, why is Auburn always so low in the preseason AP poll? Where were they at, 12th? I mean, I'm serious. Were they 12th?
I don't know where they are in the AP, but in KenPom, they're 3rd. So
yeah,
not nationally.
Another old team.
Yeah, the experience we talked
pretty well last year.
Yeah, I mean the experience of Auburn. They were better shooting wise. What was that? There was a quote on Denver Jones I saw today. What most improved player or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, and Max, we talked about it. We did our Auburn preview last week, didn't we? It all runs together.
I think last week.
Yeah, I think we did it last week. We did that preview and. We said we're curious how the guard rotation shakes out. It may be a little different than we thought it was going to be. Denver Jones at the point.
Yep.
Miles Kelly. We're much more intrigued by Miles Kelly's role on this team now. They're big. I mean, they're big at every position pretty much. They got the two, they got the mega powers inside. Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell. Hulk Hogan running down the floor, flexing. Yeah, so I mean, look, Auburn's one of those teams just like Alabama. If you're doing your entire research going back to when rosters were officially set in the spring or whatever, not really, I mean, whenever, let's say the last guy transferred into the SEC.
Right.
To me, there were 2 teams you were never going to move outside of the top 3 in any way that you ranked them, and that was going to be Alabama and Auburn. And so if you're ranking the SEC teams, I just think these 2 teams have so much in their favor coming into the season. And, I don't know how you can't be impressed with what Auburn could do, but, that's the thing, Max. If we're trying to pick teams apart and figure out, all right, if it goes well, we know why it's going to go well. If it doesn't, maybe it is the rotation of the guards and, maybe they don't shoot as well as we think they're going to. That's something that could certainly happen, I suppose.
Well, speaking about shooting, I'll tell you what. If Miles Kelly doesn't make 400 threes and shoot 70% from the three-point line with how they're talking about him, I'm going to be disappointed. I mean, this guy is drawing every comparison in the book. We've got Janai Broome saying he moves off ball like Steph Curry. We've got Bruce Pearl. Yeah, Janai Broome said he gets called Steph Curry in practice sometimes for how effectively he moves off ball. We got Bruce Pearl sometime in the offseason saying, I'm not going to compare him all the way to Bryce Brown, but I am saying his name in the same sentence as Bryce Brown. This guy is going to be torching the nets apparently. And then also another cool little quote from Denver Jones. Denver Jones just giving us great content. Said that Janai Broom's, you know how they track all the stats in practice. Janai Broom's 3-point percentages are right there with the guards. And Broom even said that he's been playing some 4 in practice. They've been doing the Cardwell-Broom lineup and testing, trying to see how comfortable Broom is, even defensively at the 4 spot. It's a different role than he's normally used to. So I'll tell you what, visit our friends at Bet Online for those first few games of the season to get Janai Broom over 0.5 threes, because they are getting grabbed from the shelves quick. About 2 games in, that'll bump up to 1.5. I'm really excited about the shooting on this offense because, I mean, it seems like that's all we're talking about here at Media Days.
I mean, yeah, and look, we talked about the schedule. John Rothstein joined us. If you hadn't checked that video, I mean, he said, like, talking about Auburn's non-conference schedule, like, it's just
brutal.
It's going to get them prepared for, the SEC slate. And, their SEC slate's interesting because they open at home against Missouri, back-to-back road games at Texas and South Carolina. I feel like their schedule, though, is one where, to me, the back part of their schedule, you're at Alabama, home against Arkansas, you got to go to Kentucky, you got to go to A&M, got another game against Alabama. Like that back part of their SEC schedule, at least on paper, looks pretty difficult for Auburn. So they're going to start off with all these tough games early on. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we talk about what are we going to learn about teams in the non-conference. There are teams that we are clearly going to know exactly where they stand. There are going to be some teams where maybe we don't know where they stand. They may rack up 11 wins, and we may still be like, you know what, I don't know. I'm still not sure. But like Auburn, Alabama, teams like that who just are going to have 2 of the toughest schedules out there, if not the 2 toughest schedules out there. I mean, you're going to know exactly how good they are in the first month and a half of the season. So,
Blake, I'm glad you mentioned their schedule because I don't know if this is what Bruce Pearl was thinking, but I'm guessing it played in. They just were unbeatable at home last year and didn't go so well on the road when they had to get out of that arena. You look at their home schedule. Where's this Houston game? Semi-away.
Is that the game?
It's in Houston, so that's an away game.
Still in Texas, yeah.
Iowa State is in Hawaii. Duke on the road. Ohio State, that's in Atlanta. Purdue, semi-home, that's in Birmingham. But I mean, they are playing a lot of games outside that building right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be beneficial because this backcourt is kind of in flux. We don't really know, is Denver Jones taking the point completely? Is it going to be kind of a committee and getting thrown into the fire early in the non-conference? We're going to get those answers real soon. So,
all right. Okay, we're gonna try to do this. Michael brings up earlier. So if we all whiff on our SEC regular season and tournament picks, do we need to have a discussion about a change at Southeastern 16, just like we were talking about coaching-wise? Maybe, Michael.
Hang on. Did we not just kind of declare Alabama off limits because they're everybody's pick? I mean, if we're betting our lives on it, we're taking Alabama to win something. I mean, I think we did that to be a little more interesting. I mean, I said, Blake, you asked me, Alabama. I said Alabama or Auburn, and then you guys chided me. It's like, okay, we'll get a little more interesting. So everybody understands. Right. Thank you. Thanks for that.
All right. So
the only future that I hold is Alabama. If that holds any weight. I love talking about my bully ball teams and playing the games and everything, but the only national future I have is Alabama. So there you go.
That's fine.
Max, what was your introduction to SEC basketball last year? I mean, you just decided you were going to dive into this thing with both feet. And I think it was everything you hoped it was going to be last year.
Well, I came from the play-by-play in college, so I was doing the basketball play-by-play. And then the thing is, though, is my only feedback was from moms and dads that were just happy to watch their kid play. And that's not really the feedback you get here. So no, it was fun. I mean, being at the SEC tournament was probably the coolest experience I've ever had. You know when you get like really, really, really excited and you start doing like the zoomies like a dog? That's what I do for March Madness. And so it was awesome. Seeing those guys up close. I mean, Blake, I remember it's like ingrained in my memory. We're waiting to get into the stadium, and it was either Mississippi State or Texas A&M is walking out of the locker room with a boom box on their shoulder. Yeah. And everyone's just like,
Mississippi State. Yeah.
Mississippi State. Yeah. Just, oh my gosh, these guys are monsters. Yeah. It was an awesome year, but this year's probably going to be cooler.
We should tell the story of how you wound up with us one day.
Someday it'll be
cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how that happened.
It was
a lot of NIL money, a lot of underhanded, behavior. But yeah, I mean, it happened. So, all right, let's do some. I mean, look, we're not probably going to talk about every team, but I want to give you guys some quick hitters on this. Okay, we're going to go word association, Max. I'm going to give you a team. Just give me the first word that pops in your mind. All right, you ready for this?
Okay.
This should be fantastic. All right. I'm going to start with the easiest ones, okay? LSU. Just kidding. I have no idea what I would put.
I don't know. I don't know.
Unknown.
Unknown.
Man. This is great because I have no idea either. Chris, you got anything better than we do?
Are we still on LSU?
Word association, LSU. Yeah.
Mine's unknown.
Yeah, I mean, the Kansas State transfer, whose name escapes me at the moment, is going to help them. But I think that's, it's a brutal league.
I don't have anything. Just don't know what to say. All right, so that tells you where we're at on LSU. That they, work in progress. I don't know what to make of them right now. Texas.
Stingy.
Sycamores.
Huh? Why? Because they got a couple of Indiana State guys. You're going to call them the Sycamores now. I'm going to say underrated.
First comes to mind. Okay.
I'm going to say Sweet 16. Like, I think Texas is really good. Max, I feel like we've been hot and cold on Texas this offseason, but
we haven't talked about them any. I mean, Tremont Mark.
I mean, they've got their roster, I think, is not getting enough love.
They've got a bully ball watch list guy in Chendell Weaver. Keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Tough as nails.
I mean, to me, I just think they got good depth. Getting Kaluma late was big. Mark is there, played a lot of SEC games. Trey Johnson, absolute stud freshman. Jordan Pope and Larry, they're there. I don't think Texas get enough love. I'm calling them underrated or Sweet 16. So, for the Longhorns.
I like it.
What about, who else have we not talked about a lot? South Carolina.
Afraid, because that is what I am of Lamont Paris.
Tough.
Father.
I don't want to say a single bad thing about South Carolina because I know I'm just going to get proven wrong. And it's going to come back to bite me.
Yeah. True. By the way, now that I think about this, yeah, you're right. Texas is ranked in the top 20, but still, I still think the ceiling is higher for Texas. I feel like they can, if they finish the year's top 10
we've
team,
been like this with them the whole offseason.
We have. Yep. We have.
Right now we're on an up.
I'm on the upswing right now, just like you are with Oklahoma. So
nice.
All right, I don't really have much else on the word association, I guess. I was just trying to pick teams that we hadn't talked about much. I mean, Florida, we hadn't talked a ton about Florida, but
fun.
I think fun's a good word.
Who is your fun team? For example, last year mine was Kentucky. Just anytime Kentucky's playing, I'm watching them. They're just going to probably score 100. This year for me, it's Mississippi State. Anytime Mississippi State's on the TV, I am turning that thing on and I'm watching the whole game. Josh Hubbard and Kanye Clary whipping around. It's going to be awesome. Mississippi State's my fun team this year.
I'm going to go Kentucky.
Again?
Yeah.
Just because of shooting?
I think if they're shooting the ball as well as I think they can, I think they're going to be highly entertaining. So,
well, Alabama's the easy answer. And by the way, they got, Mark Sears felt like he never came off the floor last year. They got Aiden Holloway now to give him a little bit of rest.
And Phylon.
Yeah. And Phylon too. All right. What else we got? What have we not touched on? I feel like do you want to talk about the state of officiating, or I'm just kidding. We're not doing that.
Length of games.
Here's a great question for Big Baller Brett. Oh, length of games. If they go as long as football games, we're in trouble. Big Baller Brett, who finished the regular season with more shot attempts, Wade Taylor or Josh Hubbard? That's one of the greatest questions we've ever been asked.
That's a fantastic question.
I feel like
Chris is going to pull up the numbers, I'm sure. He's going to tell us exactly what these two shot last year. He's going to give us the percentages. We know, Chris. Wade Taylor inefficient. We get it.
All I would say how close it was. Yeah, Wade Taylor took 100 more shots than he did last year.
This is an easy answer for me.
Well,
Wade Taylor, because Hubbard's got more help this year.
Yeah.
Wade Taylor might too, though.
I still think Taylor's getting as many shots as he wants on that team.
You're probably not wrong.
Yeah, I would say Wade Taylor too, because they got Claudell Harris too, who just is not talked about at all. For Mississippi State at all. But who am I thinking of that's just blowing my mind right now?
Riley Kugel?
Jeez, sorry.
Yeah.
That's
why I wouldn't. Yeah. That's why I wouldn't do that.
Riley Kugel was your guy to start the year, wasn't he, Max? And then that just went south in a hurry.
I mean, we were talking about him as like first team potential.
I know.
Yeah, it didn't end up that way. But hey, new beginnings. You never know. Could be a new opportunity.
All right, guys. We're going to turn this over to you now for the final couple minutes here that we do this on this live stream. You give us your questions. Like, we can do some word association. Give us some questions you have. Give us something good to sink our teeth into. Flying Blind wants to know all freshman teams. Boy.
Oof.
Isn't it so weird? Like you've got to just, our first thought is just not the freshmen anymore. Like it's just, you just do not think of them as much because you're like, how how many players that have been brought in via the transfer portal. But I'm just going to give you a couple options off the top of my head. We just mentioned, I think, Trey Johnson is one. Cam, he's the other. I mean, I'd probably put Boateng on there. Wait a minute. Yeah. Reed. Knox. Who else? Who are we forgetting? It's got to be somebody I'm forgetting. Reed and Knox. Who is that?
Boogie Fland.
I would take Knox over Fland right now. But
Asa Newell?
Asa Newell. Yep. Jeez,
I think that's an underrated pick. Yep. So
that Asa Newell RJ Godfrey combo is underrated as you know what. I mean, I don't want to fully dive into Georgia right now again, but Godfrey is good. Really good. There's a reason Mike White brought Godfrey to the media days. There's a reason. Watch out for that guy. Bully ball watch list.
By the way, I think Hunter's right here. If it clicks, he does, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's right there with Hubbard.
What happened last year? Was it just between the years, or was it personality conflict? Was there an injury? Like, did he not, like, he got a couple DNPs, did he not?
It was a weird situation, but also I don't think they expected Zion Pullen to be like the best point guard ever. So that kind of changed things.
All right. Best defensive teams in the SEC.
Tennessee.
Auburn.
Does he mean best defensive teams or all? Oh, I guess he means, okay.
We can do both.
Team.
I think do best defensive teams. I think I put Auburn in there, Tennessee. I'll go back to Texas, guys. I think they're going to be a really big defensive team. They're big. That's what I said. They're big in a lot of positions. Like I think Texas is in that discussion.
I would say Tennessee, Auburn, and then if I don't know what's going on with Darian Reed's hand injury, I've been seeing a lot about it, but if Reed's good to go and Reed's playing like the guy they recruited him, he's not all banged up. That I don't know how much they'll play that lineup of Reed, Nelson, and Amori, because I don't think Reed's shooting is up to par with what Alabama wants at that 3 spot. But I think we'd be foolish not to put Alabama in here with Big Cliff at the 5.
Does A&M get back to defending the way it did before last year?
Don't get me started.
Okay.
They should.
They should.
I hope.
They should. All right. Which SEC teams make it to the Elite 8? How about this? Because I always say we need a bracket, but let me just ask you guys: pick a number. Don't give me the teams. Just pick a number. How many SEC teams are Elite 8 type good?
Ooh.
I've got my number.
What's your number?
I got 7. Now, I'm not saying all 7.
I don't know that that's crazy. Like,
if I'm looking at ceiling, I think there's 7 teams that I would pick.
Okay,
in a best
Auburn,
case
Alabama, Tennessee, Texas,
I got 7
Arkansas,
too.
Florida. How many is that? Would you put A&M in that category, Blake?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I think that's your 7, isn't it? And we haven't even gotten to Kentucky or whoever else.
I guarantee you guys, one of those teams that's kind of being ranked in like that, whether what platform you look at for an SEC preseason, kind of that like 7 to 13 range, where you're kind of seeing the Missouri, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, with that kind of South Carolina, that kind of group. One of those is popping up there. One of those teams is going to click and hit, and they're going to be really, really good that we're not categorizing in this group. One of those teams that's kind of in that like 8 to 12, 8 to 13 range that has all that experience, and we're just like kind of questioning one thing, whether it's like the 5 spot or the shooting. One of those teams is going to pop.
I got one for you guys. Win totals for the bottom 2 or 3 teams, because I think this is a league where like we hadn't spent a lot of time on the bottom of the league. But you still, like I said, everybody's in Ken Palm's top 100 preseason. We know how tough it is to win on the road. I mean, I don't think somebody's going to go for the league like Missouri did last year.
No, I would be very surprised if someone goes, oh, very.
I'll say the worst team wins 4 games.
Yeah, that's about right.
Ken Palm right now has Vanderbilt projected to finish in last with 5 wins. So 4 would
see, and
fit right
I was going to add on that. I think you're looking at a year where, to me, it's somewhat similar to last year. I mean, think about it. We had 5 teams in the SEC last year finish between 4 and 5 losses, right? You had Tennessee finish 14-4, Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, South Carolina all finished with 5 losses. Like, I think the top of the league, too, because to get those wins at the bottom, you also got to look at the top of the league. And, like, I mean, would it shock any of us if, like, the 3rd or 4th team in the SEC has 6 or 7 losses, like, or something like that?
No.
I don't think at all.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah. So
what happened
they gotta
last
come
year? Wasn't it
somewhere.
like 4 teams or something were tied at 13-5? Yeah, Tennessee was 14-4 last year, finishing first in the regular season. Then Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, and South Carolina tied at 13-5. 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
by the way, Bart Torvik has got every single team inside the top 75. Vanderbilt comes in at 75, Missouri 64, LSU 62. Guess who he's got winning the league?
A&M?
I think he's got Tennessee.
Nope.
Auburn?
He's got Tennessee.
He's got Tennessee. Yeah, the defensive rating is nuts on Bart Torvik.
Like, would it shock anybody if Tennessee won the league?
Oh,
like, absolutely.
I mean, when's the last time Rick Barnes had a bad year?
I would be kind of surprised, I'm not going to lie, if Tennessee finishes regular season above both Auburn and Alabama. I would be a little surprised.
It might come down to schedules, honestly.
The thing is, Tennessee has something that I don't necessarily know that a lot of teams have. And I'm not saying every team, but a lot of teams. They have, like, absolute guaranteed top 5 defense because they've done it the past 5 years, right? And I think if you look at a lot of teams, you will see fluctuations in offense or defensive numbers. Now, again, guys, I get it. Like, Alabama's usually really good offensively. Auburn has been pretty consistent, I think, for the most part defensively, but I don't have their numbers in front of me.
With Broom, they've been really consistent.
Yeah, so I mean, but I think the point is, like, that's one of the biggest factors, and it's a complete known for Tennessee. You'd be stunned if they finish outside the top 10 in defense.
Stunned.
And so I think that's why, like, wouldn't be shocked at all with Tennessee. So
Rick Barnes started at Texas in 98-99, missed one NCAA tournament there. He's been so good at Tennessee, I forgot he missed the NCAA tournament the first 2 years. But every non-COVID year since then, he's made the NCAAs, which should be 7 years in a row. So that's basically what all but 3 years, throwing COVID out since 1998. That man's been in the NCAA tournament. That's amazing.
Yeah. And keep in mind, there were some people who wanted him out of there not long ago.
God.
I mean, I can't go that far. And I get it. Like, but look, that's a great conversation because that's where the league has gotten to where if your expectation at so many different schools now, we talked about like the Missouri thing and all that earlier. The expectation is not just to finish in the, top half of the SEC anymore. Because it is the transfer portal era, it's the NIL era. And you've seen it done so many times now. You can flip your team every single offseason. So you don't have to say, well, we'll be good in 3 years. No, we want to be good next year because we can rebuild the roster next year if we got the NIL money, And so it's like, that's the thing is like the expectation. We always say somebody's got to finish 1. Somebody's got to finish 16. Like,
okay, Blake, I'm gonna ask you guys a different question. We focused on upside. We said, all right, how many teams can make the Elite Eight? And you said 7, and I think you're right. 5 highest floor teams in the league. To me, 3 of them are pretty easy.
Alabama, Auburn.
Yep.
I would probably still put Tennessee in there.
Tennessee.
Those were my first 3.
After that's a little bit of a drop off, I think.
I think you get a little volatile after that. Look, I still think it's Arkansas. If you're talking what I see on paper, and we did this last year, but we also did it the year before, and it didn't work out in the regular season, but they got, made tournament runs and all that, but there's so much talent.
My concern is shooting, though, with them.
I know, but...
I mean, after this now, after we just put our top 3 in, every single team that we say, we can counter with a concern about something, I think.
Would Florida be in that 5?
Yes, because I think they got a top 3 player in the league, and I think anytime you have that,
really good guards. Really good guards.
Yeah, I'd put Florida.
So who's our 5th?
I mean, you're really picking between what, A&M and Arkansas?
I don't like guys. I love A&M. I don't like their floor though. I mean, they're I don't like that floor at all.
See, I disagree. I mean, floor. I'm thinking like of a team that's not going to go 6-12. Like I feel like they may not win 14, but they're not going to win
Texas
6.
in there too. Then
okay,
I mean, I truly think that Texas is going to have a shot to be in that discussion. If I had to pick one of the 2, I would pick Arkansas. And I know that could be, but here's the thing, right? Like, yes, we have all the discussions about Cal in the tournament, but Cal's been okay in the regular season.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and he's got a really talented roster. So I'll take a chance on picking Arkansas for Cal to get, I mean, honestly, let me look at Cal's record here, unless I'm just forgetting. I know they had the bad year.
I mean, they've had a couple years where they missed out on the tournament too.
When?
They were going to miss the COVID year, right?
Oh yeah, but that was it. Like,
I mean, how far back do you want to go?
I mean, if you go all the way back to since 2014, he made the tournament every year except for the 21 season when they went 9-16.
Middle of the decade there too, I think.
Well, yeah, but my God, Chris, we're going back 14 years ago.
Admittedly, I'm nitpicking, but we're talking about a league that is super competitive. So you got to find separators.
Well, then I would pick Arkansas over Texas A&M because I've seen a very inconsistent A&M.
I'll scratch my own argument because I do look back at his record and like a bad year is 22-12 for him, other than one or two just real bumps. And of course, those were also some one and done kind of freshman teams, and landscape's different now. So I was probably too hard with that. I'll concede that one to you.
He is going to win games. I don't know how many NCAA tournament games he's going to win. He's going to win games, and it may not be early. Like they play Baylor, they got Illinois, they got Miami. Those are all games away from home. Michigan too, Oakland. But I mean, they're going to win games, and that's just the way I see it. So
okay, I mean, Mark Pope. Speaking of floors, man, his record at BYU was really good. I know they didn't make Final Fours, they didn't, get a lot of headlines, but that man won 2 dozen games or close to it most years.
I love this team. I'm high on them. I'm optimistic on Kentucky this year, but I can definitely see it not working out. I can see an area where, maybe the relationship between Kirk Kriisa and Lamont Butler at the 1 and the 2 just is not clicking at all, and you really got to have Travis Perry or Colin Chandler try to, step up a lot. Maybe Jackson Robinson doesn't translate perfectly as being the guy, the bucket getter, and you got to play a lot more Owe and a lot more Ansley Elminor. So I could see Kentucky's floor being a little bit lower than, say, like a Texas, like Blake was saying, where they're just huge and the roles are defined and stuff like that.
All right.
Blake, Carol's wondering, urgent question. I think she's asked a few times. I believe the people will want to know as well. We got 400 people in the live.
400 people. We're an hour and 40 minutes into this thing, and the hits just keep on coming in terms of the numbers here. 400 plus people watching
just chatting
on a Tuesday night in football season. 3rd week in October. We're talking basketball here. When are we going to start the regular live shows and live streams? They will start. My guess is we'll do like a big. We'll probably do one the week before. Max will be my guess.
Yeah.
We'll probably do one the week before.
Like an awards.
Yeah, we'll do some awards. Do something like this is my guess. Get you ready for the opening week games. Of course, we'll have our prediction videos and all that for the big games. We're not going to do prediction videos for every single non-conference game, folks. Just check your expectations right now. We will do them for the bigger games, but we'll still do our reactions and all that stuff that you're used to. So yeah, Mother Carol, I would say the week before the regular season starts, which is 2 weeks away in terms of like when that would be. So in a couple weeks, we'll start doing the regular live shows. A lot more basketball videos, all that stuff coming for you. So
I feel like we need an opening night blowout episode. Maybe.
We'll do that for sure.
At that point too, we'll have a few big time exhibitions that we can talk about, and I'll be sure to overreact to a bunch of stuff. Yeah,
Arkansas, Purdue comes to mind.
Well, Tennessee, Purdue last year, or was it Michigan State? It was either Tennessee or Purdue, or Tennessee, Michigan State.
It's Michigan State, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was one of the two where the connect. We were like, "Holy smokes, this guy is insane." That'll happen at the exhibition.
It's not a banner opening night. I guess Ohio State, Texas, and Missouri, Memphis are the biggest name games. And I'm not dug in on the mid-majors yet. I could be missing somebody, but anyway.
All right, Matt.
It's basketball. That's what people want.
From Donovan, who will be the most consistent team in the league.
And that is where, for the first time ever, I am taking the easy road out. I don't know how you say anyone other than Alabama with Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, and Big Cliff leading the show. I can't do another answer. Alabama.
Yeah, that's my choice.
I always like to root for an underdog, and I like to create some storylines, but when it comes down to it, Mark Sears is Mark Sears, man.
Chris, do you have a different answer?
No, I think that's the right answer. I mean, it could be Auburn if they handle away from home. I mean, Tennessee's always just – when's the last time Tennessee had just a couple of just really bad games in a row? I mean, even if it's offensively they're bad, they defend well. So, defense travels.
Yeah, maybe Tennessee's a team we're just not talking about enough. Maybe we just gotten to the point where it's so ingrained that we're like, well, they're just going to go do what they usually do.
Do we view them differently if they go to the Final Four? I don't really, but I think perception on Alabama basketball changed.
Well,
by
but
them making the Final Four.
Listen, if Alabama made the Elite Eight last year and they had this roster coming into this year, they would still be our number one team.
Yeah.
Right, Max? I mean, I think it's the roster. I don't think it has anything. Yes, like last year mattered. How they finally made it there. But like, to me, it's if you look at the rosters, I just think this is clearly on paper. And guess what? We picked South Carolina as the 14th team in the SEC last year. We saw how that turned out. But right now, if I'm looking at returning players, if I'm looking at what they brought in, and yes, we have to factor in the injury situation and all that for a couple players, but I mean, they have it all.
Yeah, there's not a missing piece there. They've got,
how many teams would Jaron Stevenson be starting for in the SEC?
Lots.
I mean,
they've got three shot blockers this year.
Would Jaron Stevenson start for 15 other SEC teams?
I don't know about that, but close.
Maybe not Auburn.
That may be the only one, in my opinion. Like, maybe I'm too high on him, but that may be the only team that I don't think he would start for, just because they're so loaded up front.
Right.
But.
Yeah, well, with Auburn also, Janai Broome, like we've always been saying, he's one of the best in the conference. He's one of the best in the league. I think it's like we got to stop saying league and start saying nation, because I think you can maybe make an argument that Kalkbrenner's better. I think there's an argument there, but other than that, Broome clears. And when you got the best big in the nation, that's consistent right there. And now he's got a 3-point shot.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys are going to give you a couple-minute warning here. And, yeah, again, be sure to leave your Super Chats. Join the It Just Means More tier here. Again, when you leave your Super Chats, all it does is help us do more of these for you guys so we can stay on here for 2 hours and talk about SEC basketball, because otherwise, we can't do that all the time. But if you leave more Super Chats, we can, trust me. But, yeah, we appreciate you guys joining in. We thought we'd have some people jump in here, but did we think, an hour and 47 minutes into this thing, we'd have 400-plus people? Probably not. But it shows that 400-plus people, you guys, are ready for basketball season. So, yeah. So any other questions, comments you have, leave them in the chat there, and we will wrap up here shortly.
Blake, how is it, because you have been covering the league for a while now, how is it entering a season with a unanimous decision across the nation? The SEC is the best conference in the nation. How is that?
Max,
Did you ever think this would be a point? Did you ever think we'd get here?
No, because I can remember the days of, 2015-16 is the season that always stands out in my mind. Because there were 3 SEC teams that made the NCAA tournament that year. Mm-hmm. That was, 9 seasons ago? Kentucky, Texas A&M, and then Vanderbilt made it as an 11 seed. A&M was a 3 seed, Kentucky was a 4 seed, Vanderbilt was an 11 seed. Those were your 3 NCAA tournament teams in the SEC that year. Since then, as we know, that number has continued to go up, and you've had lots of teams make, Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4 type runs, and now when you're adding 2 more teams to the mix, I think you've got one surefire NCAA tournament team in Texas this year. That number keeps going up. This is going to be the best conference in the country, and yeah, I just think that, again, that's why if we were doing this 8 years ago, there would not be 400-plus people in here watching this and interacting right now, because it's just, it's just so different. But now people can get excited about their basketball programs, and I think, again, that's just kind of where we are. And look, it all starts at the top, right? It starts with you got to make good hires. The SEC made certainly a strong push to be better in basketball, and now it comes in the NIL and transfer portal era where you have the resources to do it. If you want to be good, you can be good, and you just have to put all the resources into it that you can. And yeah, I mean, it's like Chris said earlier. Look at the coaching roster in this league.
Oh.
It's just it's just ridiculous when you see kind of how many coaches are in this league that have accomplished the things that they've accomplished. And so, yeah, I mean, look, I think last year was the perfect example, right? Look at what South Carolina did last year, being picked as the 14th team in the SEC going into the season. And then look at how it flipped for a team like Missouri. That's how quickly you can go from the top to the bottom in the SEC, or the bottom to the top. All it takes is one off season to completely change your fortunes. And, there are no excuses now. Like, everybody has a situation where I think they can put whatever they want into basketball. And it's just a matter of, are those schools choosing to do it? And yes, there may be some places that have a little more oomph in that NIL bucket than others, but still, it's pretty awesome to see where the league's at right now. So,
Blake, when I was in the room for media days today, that was one of the things I was thinking. Is just the roster of coaches is incredible. I mean, how many coaches have been to a Final Four or at least an Elite Eight? I mean, has half the league not been to at least an Elite Eight? The head coach.
Yeah,
Chris, I was just trying to look at that while you guys were talking, and I couldn't get it, but Chris Beard is ranked 9th in the conference, and that guy was in the national championship game like a few years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think at least half these teams have. I mean, okay, coach has been to Elite Eight. Bruce Pearl, Nate Oates, Rick Barnes. Has Buzz been to an Elite Eight?
I don't think so. 2025?
Did Rodney Terry get there?
Buzz got there at Marquette. Yes, he did.
Okay, Buzz got there at Marquette. So that's 4.
Beard.
We know Cal's been there. Golden hasn't yet. Jans hasn't yet. Porter Moser's been to a Final Four. That's what, 6.
Mike
Cal,
White.
Or Mike White. So that's 8, 7. We didn't count Chris Beard in that one. I don't think that's 8.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah, so that's half the league.
Half the league.
I was. Here's another thing. Just being down and watching how well Media Day was done, Blake. It wasn't just the number of people. We're sitting there in the ballroom of the Grand Bohemian in Mountain Brook today, and they've got a full court basketball court. That's the staging area for this whole event. They have rolled in a full court, regulation sized, legit hardwood floor that we could have played a game on. And that was just adding to the ambiance. Greg Sankey was there the whole time. I mean, it was just it was a show.
You met him, right?
Yeah, I met him today. First time I'd ever met Greg Sankey.
What did Greg Sankey have to say about Southeastern 16? Did he set his notifications for this live stream tonight? I bet he did.
I don't think he did. I think he's like that. That's nice. Thank you for being here. Kind of very.
No, I think he's watching. I think he's watching right now.
The league. We know the league knows about us. We know that much. But
well, listen, the nation's going to know about SEC basketball this year.
Oh yeah.
No, we have fun here, but it is. I mean, again, it's the expectations have never been higher, and there's a reason for that. I mean, how many teams are coming into the season with NCAA tournament aspirations? I know the answer to that. It's 16.
All of them.
So, again, 7 years ago, 5 years, whatever, like it wasn't 16. It wasn't 14. It just wasn't. Now it's 16. So, not going to happen. Not going to get 16 teams in. I can guarantee you that. So, there you go.
There you go.
All right. We're out of here. Chris, wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm looking. to see if Ken Palm had everybody projected with a winning record. He's got Vanderbilt at 14-15, but everybody else may be picked to have a winning record. That would probably something that's never happened in the league before.
Well, I'm
that's how deep it is.
Give the Commodores a win over Nevada on November 21st.
All right.
Give me the Commodores at 15-14.
Everybody makes at least the CIT.
All right, guys. On your way out, we're going to do what we did with the football stream the other night. Leave us an emoji on your way out, and don't think you're being cute by leaving a certain emoji. Leave us an emoji with your thoughts on your team heading into the season. Give us your level of excitement. Describe it in one emoji. That's all you got to leave in the comments with your thoughts on your team heading into the season. So, by the way, SC Scout Guy checking in. SC Scout Guy, why are you checking in just to pick on Max Barr?
And I got to keep this thing now. I wasn't even planning on it.
Season.
I was just kind of...
Yeah.
I just thought, like, I think it was one of my friends had a mustache. And I was like, let me try that. That looks pretty cool. And now I'm stuck.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, the emojis are coming in. They're incredible, as you would expect. So, all right. Chris, wrap it up. We're out of here.
Yeah, thrilled to be doing this again. This is so much fun to be talking basketball again. I mean, just being in the room today and feeling the excitement, watching the coaches, seeing the players, and just thinking how incredible of a year is this going to be cover between all the incredible teams and players. I mean, opening night can't get here soon enough.
Yeah. Yep. We're approaching 10 Eastern here. My left eyelid's about to fully close. But when you sent us that text, that was like, I'm heading home early and I'm going to be
I literally did it. I'm okay. I was going to stay longer, but if we're going to go live, I'm going to be home for that.
I was genuinely so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, we're back. We're going live.
Yep.
Chris had the same thought Greg Sankey did. Rushed home to be on this live stream.
That's right.
Can we get Greg Sankey on here? We've already had Garth on here. Can we get Greg Sankey coming in for a live stream to share his thoughts on the state of SEC basketball? All right. We appreciate you guys. You're the best. Yeah, we do. We really appreciate it.
All right. We do baseball, football, basketball year-round. We'll come out with the usual slew of football content tomorrow. Got a baseball episode I think we're going to do Thursday with some fall ball stuff around the conference. And, yeah, just appreciate everybody that was in here tonight and appreciate those of you watching later. Hopefully everybody in SEC country is safe. It's been a fall with the hurricanes and such. So prayers to this area of the country. Thank you all for watching. God bless you all. You've been watching us here at Southeastern 16, presented by Bet Online.